Hello, La Liga fans, and welcome back to the Total Football Analysis La Liga podcast. My name is Alex Comisa, and I'm very excited to be joined once again by our all-star lineup, starting off with El Profesor, Chris Mumford. How you doing, Chris?
Fabuloso. Thanks for having me.
We also got pro defender DJ Taylor back. Thanks for joining us once again, DJ, and how are you?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
And of course, we have our expert analyst, Scott Martin, on deck. How's it going, Scott?
Well, Alex, glad to be back. Glad for another week of La Liga.
All right. Well, let's recap some of the action from this past week. Once again, we saw another pretty entertaining week of La Liga, like you said, Scott. Real Madrid continues to get the job done and sits at the top of La Liga with 77 points, maintaining that 4-point lead above arch rivals FC Barcelona. You can bet our man Scott enjoyed the recent results from Los Blancos. So, Scott, how did the match versus Getafe play out? A 1-0 score for Real Madrid. It seemed like Getafe was causing Madrid some issues early on.
So in the attack, Getafe was able to generate a number of decent opportunities in the first 15 minutes of the match, put Real Madrid under some pressure. It didn't quite look like Madrid was settled and prepared for the intense pressure that Getafe was going to bring. I think this is something we've discussed in the past, that you have to be able to ride out that Getafe storm and adapt to their tempo. So they came out hot and heavy, and they really put a lot of pressure on Real Madrid. But after 15 minutes, Getafe really struggled to generate any meaningful scoring opportunities. And from there, it was really just a matter of could they hold Real Madrid hold their attack. So for the most part, they were able to keep the field compact. They kept their lines tight and denied line-breaking passes to Real Madrid. You could see that Los Blancos did struggle throughout the match. But eventually, as they tend to do, especially under Zidane, they found a way. Controversy or not, they pulled it out with the Ramos PK.
Exactly. Madrid seems to be finding a way, especially as of late and this season. So Matias Oliveira commits a silly PK, and Carvajal takes advantage of an inside-the-foot cut, and he goes down. DJ, I bet you probably loved watching this as a right back. Was this just lazy defending on Carvajal, though? And how would you react to one of your teammates if you're playing for Getafe? You've been playing so well, and he commits that foul and almost bails Real Madrid out.
I mean, I think obviously, if it was for me, I'd be very frustrated. I think, like you said, it was a silly foul is what you can say it. But I think at the end of the day, as a defender, especially in that position, once you get beat, you have to let the attacker go. Once they have that body position on you, you just have to let it go. You have to let them keep dribbling and try to find another spot where you can, make a new play with it. But obviously, he left his leg in on purpose. He obviously could have pulled it back. But once you leave your leg in and they create any type of contact, the attacker is going down. So for me, it was kind of heartbreaking to see Getafe do all that work and almost hold it and then just lose it within one split second. Obviously, Ramos has been not merciful with his PKs, so almost disrespectful, but I like it.
Exactly. So at that point, DJ, when you're out of position and you're reaching, would you almost just let that go and trust your keeper to make the save instead of committing the PK?
Yeah, for me, I think I would pull my leg out and let the play happen. If you get beat, you get beat. As a defender, you're gonna get beat, and it's better, I feel, in that position to trust your goalie and see if he can make a save rather than all the fault be coming onto you because you left your leg out there.
I completely agree.
Yeah, and the other thing to consider is even if he does get by on the inside, that's still a really tight angle as well. So not a great shooting lane. So really should have let him go. The other thing, guys, pro defenders, what do you think about his starting point as he engaged? It looked like he was cut a little too close to the end line.
Yes.
Not really dictating where Carvajal was going to go. He was really at his mercy at the time of the move.
And he overstepped, he overreached, didn't move his feet well enough, and he was square to Carvajal, which is obviously, as DJ will tell you, not ideal. And I'm sure Chris will agree that you would rather have a shot from that angle than a PK, especially the way that keepers are getting called out for coming off their line lately in La Liga, Chris.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, the truth is, if you look at the probabilities that a shot's going to go in at that angle, in all the chaos late in the game, I'd much rather have that probability than standing on my own goal line waiting for Sergio Ramos to do his little dance and hit the ball, right?
Speaking of Ramos, he is the top scorer since La Liga has been back from quarantine. Guys, could we have predicted this?
You know something? A lot of people did not predict that Darth Vader was going to be successful for as long as he was. And Sergio Ramos is in the same category as far as I'm concerned. So he's got the dark side of the force with him, and it's going really well. And, you know, we'll see what ends up happening. But he's riding well. It does help that if most of your shots are PKs, though. It's a nice position to be in.
It sure does. Confidence is sky high. All right, guys, let's switch over. Atletico Madrid beat Mallorca pretty comfortably 3-0. Guys, we previewed this match, and I remember saying that I didn't expect Mallorca to be too much of a threat, and they really weren't. I thought that Kubo was obviously bright. He had good moments, and he had a good shot off in the first half that was dangerous. Had a nice dribbling against three guys. Might go in his highlight video, but the final product did not seem to worry Atletico. Scott, what was your thoughts on how the match played out?
Yeah, so for the match, possession was relatively even. I think it was 51-49% in Mallorca's favor. Despite the even playing field, they just, like I said, they didn't have that end product. They did have their time in the attacking third. That was great, but the final ball was never there. And that's really been the story of their season. It's, good attacking football at some points, just no end product. And, when you play expansive attacking football against a team like Atletico Madrid, you're going to pay. So, they got their three chances. They took them. You just can't concede that kind of space to Atletico.
Exactly. A pretty horrible way to commit that first PK. Horrendous, defender 101 blunder there, DJ will tell you. Chris, Morata's first PK was called back because Manolo Reina was off his line. Is La Liga all of a sudden cracking down on this? What's going on?
Well, I just think they feel that goalkeepers have too good of a chance to stop PKs in La Liga, it must be. So most other leagues around the world, they think that keepers don't have much of a chance. So quite candidly, that was a real heartbreaker to see that not once but twice in the last week with Ter Stegen suffering from that particular fate. Yeah, I'm not sure what to think about this one. Rules are the rules, but I'm just wondering, I don't know how you can shift the rules to kind of even things out, except for my favorite, which is go back to a 35-yard NASL shootout, and let's see what Sergio Ramos can do against the goalkeepers in those situations.
That would be pretty entertaining.
A lot more entertaining than PKs from a goalkeeper perspective, I will tell you, because a lot of times when I was in the goal, most of the highlights I got was me walking to the back of the net and getting the ball out. So, yeah.
Morata puts away the second PK. DJ, what's the mentality after you've missed a PK and then, you get it back, you get to retake it?
I think, especially for Morata, after he missed, I think he obviously felt blessed to have a second chance. Honestly, I think it's just I don't even know if it's a mentality. I'd much rather call it a game because you've already gone once. The keeper saved it. So now you have the option, do I go that same way or do I go the other way or do I hit it down the middle? So I think it's kind of a mind game. But at the end of the day, it's just all about confidence. And Morata showed it. He knows he's a good striker, and the second one was perfect. He just banged it up for corner. So.
And it's just so hard for a keeper once they get it called back for them just to get back up for it. And I will tell you what you guys said earlier, what was the defender thinking in that situation? Another low probability. Trust the keeper. He's either going to do it or he's not, but don't give him the probabilities that a PK can give.
Exactly. And the mind games were real on that second PK. Morata's second goal, Chris, was also some pretty poor defending, like you mentioned on the first PK. It was a 1v3 in the box. Morata is pretty much pinned up against the Mallorca defender. And then once again, the Mallorca defender gets caught square, ball watching. Morata makes a pretty simple movement to get him behind for the cross. And the Mallorca defender falls over, which was obviously pretty poor. So Mallorca's defense was pretty suspicious. And then finally, to top it all off, Koke scores a goal on a deflection. Chris, what is your mentality and technique as the shot is being taken and you realize midway through it's going to be deflected and you're already diving?
Okay, so I've studied this for years, as you guys know. I'm a veteran keeper, and I've perfected the technique of saying, "Oh, shit," because that's about the only thing you can do when you see a deflection. It's just time slows down and speeds up all at the same instance, and you're just not sure what to do, and you're hoping by some dumb luck the fingertips can get to the ball, and that just doesn't happen, right? So yeah, I can't say much about that deflection. The second goal, I will tell you, and other defenders, aka Sam Brotherton, thinks that I'm too harsh on defenders, but I'm going to actually come to the aid of the defender here. It's a tough position. He's caught out of position, and the ball's there, and he loses touch with his defender, right? And it breaks my heart when that happens. But that ball's being whipped in there. The person who I would sit down and have a conversation is the goalkeeper, right? When that angle gets cut, there's no way he's going to be able to take a shot on goal. One has to cheat out and not just rely on reaction, but hopefully cut that off, because that ball cut across at the 3 or 4 yard line. And to me, that's almost unforgivable that a keeper doesn't at least try to deflect it. And he may deflect it into a striker's foot, but it's a lot better than whipping right across your 3 or 4 yard line in your house. That is not acceptable. So I'm not going to fault the defender on this, but I do think the keeper needs to keep the house clean.
Well, that's a great perspective. I'm sure DJ would also add, though, that, it is also the defender's fault. And I would certainly add that as well. So maybe everyone should look in the mirror, and we're going to move on. Athletic Club played Real Madrid, and they lost again, 0-1. Real Madrid got the winner. Surprise, surprise, from a Sergio Ramos PK. Athletic could have been a slip up for Real, but they took care of business. Scott, how did this play out?
So the disappointing thing for me was that Real Madrid didn't take care of business early on. In the first half, they had a number of really high-quality opportunities, and they just continuously scuffed them. So ultimately, those failures in the first half, they put them in this position where now they have to deal with a little bit of criticism, these accusations of VAR helping them out. And, ultimately, I don't think they're going to be bothered by it. They got the 3 points, closer to the title. But that is something I think Zidane has to look at. Was it the combination of players that were attacking the net in the first half? If he has Hazard back in there, maybe Vinicius Jr. getting him behind, should they create higher quality opportunities? Maybe reduce the amount of work that Benzema's doing in the build-up so he can be the one meeting the ball in the box. But for me, that was the big issue from Real Madrid's perspective. For Athletic Club, I would say a poor first half. They were very open, despite trying to sit back and be a little more compact. But in the second half, they showed very well, and it was really unlucky for them that they came away with nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you. The Real Madrid games this week, I think I'd rather dig ditches than watch, right? I mean, These are 1-0 matches. I will say that Liverpool has more or less done the same thing too, is they've gotten 1-0 results against vastly inferior teams. And I guess that's what it takes to win a competition that's got 38 matches. DJ, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think, especially towards the end of the season, obviously with the quarantine, the guys had to rest, but usually when you don't have the quarantine, you're just trying to scrap away points in whatever way it is, whether it's PK, whether it's VAR, a goal is a goal, whether it's hit us the other team's defender and goes in the goal, it's an own goal. That's 3 points you get to take home. So I think Real Madrid, especially after this quarantine, has been able to just salvage these points and continue to grow, especially once Barca slipped up, they took advantage of it. And obviously you see where they're at now for a reason.
Definitely have that killer instinct. And guys, we need to talk about this penalty on Marcelo. There's a big debate here. Marcelo comes in and the Athletic Club player seems to be twisting his body and puts his left leg out to block Marcelo's path. And then he actually turns with the ball and gets away from Marcelo's pressure. Is this a PK, bluntly?
Oof, that's a great question. Yes and no. So it's one of those where a more lenient referee, I think, would let it go, just because the defender actually did a decent job in establishing position in the tackle. I think he actually did get a touch on the ball. I'd have to look at it again. But in the end, he does step on Marcelo's foot. He does go down, and that's again where you are going to see that given. So again, unlucky for Athletic Club. I think they have an argument that the penalty shouldn't have been given, but at the same time, the contact that does generally result in a penalty kick was there. So I mean, either way, that one's a toss-up for me.
So the question for me is that a foul in the middle of the field? If your midfielder does that turn on another midfielder? I don't really think so, personally.
I think that's a great way of looking at it. In my mind, it isn't. Now, I haven't refereed in probably 20 years, but that's to me, and you guys are going to think I'm crazy, but I think this is part of a vast conspiracy of field players versus goalkeepers in terms of just getting more penalty kicks. So I will tell you that in this particular case, if you look at it in terms of expected goals, Real Madrid had expected goals of 2.9 versus Athletic Clubs of 0.24. So maybe karma or justice does prevail in the end. In this
the stats gods prevail.
I guess so. I mean, it's numbers are numbers. Video and math don't lie. So
you know what? It's just like DJ said. At the end of the day, a goal is a goal. A PK is a PK, whether VAR is involved or not. But DJ, can you help us break down Ramos's technique of looking at the keeper directly into his eyes, into his soul, and just always putting it a little too far, and the keeper just can't reach it? What's that technique like?
I think, like I said earlier, for me, Ramos' PK and his technique has just been, as I said, disrespectful. Obviously,
Great way to put it.
With his panenkas and the mind games he plays with the keepers, I mean, including his free kick, everyone's seen, especially with that athletic one, keepers, there's no chance keepers touching that. And I think as a keeper, it's like, where do I go? Because he's hit 3-4 panenkas down the middle, so you might take that risk and just stand in the middle, but also he showed that, like in that PK, that he can bang it upper corner, no problem. So, yeah, like I said, I think it's just no respect for the keepers, he's just a different animal after this quarantine.
Under pressure as well. I mean, Scott, you got to love that. Oh,
yeah, especially coming from the captain. That's exactly the kind of leadership, the kind of courage that you want him to bring to your team. So, and this team has shown that level of resilience since the restart. So, I mean, you can definitely tell they're feeding off of Ramos and his leadership style. As a fan, you love to see that from your side.
and the type of PK that Chris would probably hate. But let's move on. Let's move on to Villareal versus Barca. A 4-1 scoreline. Grisou silenced all the haters, guys. I was proud to see that. Amazing performance by the Frenchman, and of course, from the majestic Messi. I was disappointed, frankly, that the first goal was an own goal, even though I am a defender. I thought that Griezmann was going to flick that in with his back heel regardless, which would have been awesome for him to get that goal after all the criticism he has gotten. But Chris, I wanted to ask you on Villarreal's goal. Ter Stegen makes a save on Cazorla and he pushes it out right to his left.
Mm-hmm.
But the ball falls right to Moreno. So it's an amazing save, but it falls right to the striker. You know,
Yeah.
what is your mentality? What are you saying to your defenders right after that happens? Or can you do better? Should Ter Stegen do, a little bit better there for the first Villarreal goal?
Well, I will tell you, most advanced keepers, they've had embedded in their brain parry wide, or parry over the inline a lot. The only problem is even with people like Ter Stegen, where you have a ball being struck at you at 80 miles per hour or 24 yards per second, right? You're just trying to get something up, right?
Right.
And in that particular situation, you just have to credit the striker for making the run all the way to the inline, right? It's just like you tell defenders, go all the way to the inline until the ball's out. Forwards do the same thing, and then occasionally they get rewarded with gifts like that, right? So, it's hard to blame a keeper when they're getting the balls crushed at them for saying, hey, wait a minute, you didn't parry it 25 yards to the right or to the left in that situation.
Exactly. The tough life of being a goalkeeper. But Suarez's goal was pretty ridiculous. Nothing the keeper can do there. Messi takes the ball on the initial play all the way down off his chest, almost like a hold-up striker, number 9. Then he flicks it over the next defender, turns it around. He dribbles past 3 more defenders, attracts everyone centrally, and then plays it out to Suarez for an incredible finish that, by the way, did take a little bit of deflection. So, DJ, let's just dissect the impossible for a second. This is an impossible question. How do you go about defending Messi, not in general, but in this specific situation where he's 1 against 3?
I think, first of all, once the ball is played to Messi, you either take him out right there. Like, obviously in that situation, he held the ball up first. So there you have a chance to foul him, completely just put him on his backside and then, everybody get back. But I think after that, it's just defenders are just caught out. Once he's on his left foot, it's over, But for me personally, if I were to defend Messi, the only whatever you can call it weakness or something that's going to restrict him would be to just force him on his right. Because every time, as you see, when he starts on the right, he cuts on his left, whether he's shooting or he's playing a over the top ball to Jordi Alba or connecting between lines, it's deadly. So for me, I would just force him right. Even defenders nowadays, they still get beat to the right with his speed, but if he's on his right foot, it's way better than him being on his left. For me, that's what I have.
Scott, easier said than done, right?
Oh, much easier said than done. Messi just rides contact so well. Even if you do get a touch on him, you're not even necessarily slowing him down. So your one hope as a defender is to try and funnel him into some cover, and then just, if you can encourage him to take too many touches, I think that's probably your best bet. That's when we're generally seeing him lose the ball these days. But again, yeah, easier said than done.
Exactly. They need to talk to Pepe and Ramos back in the day to understand how to play against him. And he still, defeated them quite well. But I think a good topic to talk about is Messi played more central in this game. And why? Because Griezmann and Suarez were 2 strikers up top. They played almost a 4-4-2S lineup, or with Messi right behind the 2 strikers. And it worked. It worked exceptionally well against a Villarreal side that was, let's be quite honest, pretty soft, I thought, defensively. And I think the Ansu Fati goal at the end against one-on-one against Albiol, summed it all up for them. They were pretty wide open, and it was pretty easy to play through them. I thought they over-defended on certain players and didn't have quite the right balance in 1v1 with a guy in behind covering the space behind not quite well. And it was just a little too easy and not what you would hope for a side that's been playing so well as of late. So obviously at the end, Ansu Fati gets his goal. We've talked a lot about him starting. But after this performance, and with Griezmann playing up top with Suarez with the two strikers, do we think that Ansu Fati should still start, or should it be Griezmann?
So I like Settien's changing system, bringing Griezmann a little bit deeper into that second striker role that he's actually more comfortable in. I think was a catalyst for Barcelona's success in this match. But going forward, how many teams are going to play Barcelona the same way Villareal did? So the way I described it to someone was Villareal came out like a middleweight boxer going up against a heavyweight, trying to play the heavyweights game. So it's just a very tactically naive performance. I think going forward, you're going to see a lot of teams sit back and try and counter. So I don't think that there's a space for Griezmann going forward that we saw in this match. So I think it does still have to be specific to the matchup. And more often than not, going forward, I think that will suit Fati more so than Griezmann.
DJ, Fati or Griezmann? Or can you play both? Is it possible?
I don't know about both, just the way Barca lines up. But for me, I would agree with what Scott was saying. It depends on who they're playing, Because also, Griezmann plays really well. It can play 90 or even higher up than that, 60, 70. And I think Fati is also very good coming off the bench. He's young. He's got pace. He can just run at defenders. If Barca needs to see out a game, I think that's a real opportunity for Fati to just come in, maybe get that extra goal like he did against Villareal, or maybe just to run at that left back because he was tired, been running for 90 minutes. So I think he adds a different dynamic to it. Obviously, I loved Griezmann playing in this game. It was great to see him connect with Messi and Suarez. I think they kind of been missing that a little bit, just trying to learn each other. But yeah, for me right now, I'd probably play Griezmann and then bring Fati off the bench, just because Fati, he's going to make an impact as soon as he comes on the field.
I think that's a great point. Let's switch, guys, to some previews. Let's preview some important matches coming up. Scott, can you kick us off with the Getafe match versus Villareal on Wednesday night? What should we expect?
Yeah, so the interesting point of view from this one is it's two very system-based teams. So with Getafe, you're going to see a side that is very compact, very tough in the counter press, and not afraid to play some old school football. With Villareal, as we saw against Barcelona, they have an identity, they stick to it. Both teams know what to expect in this matchup. I think ultimately we're going to see Getafe take advantage of all the space that Villareal is trying to create as they get into the attacking phases. When you look at the way Getafe played Real Madrid, Madrid struggled to break the Getafe pressure. I don't see Villareal really having much more success. So this one, I think, should go to Getafe. Should be a very, very entertaining match. I love the contrasting styles, but I do think the counterattacking team that's going to control space is going to be more successful.
Definitely. So next up, we got Atletico Madrid versus Real Betis on Saturday. And it seems to be that the Celta Vigo Atletico Madrid match will finish as a tie 1-1. So you can expect Atletico Madrid to definitely be fired up and respond against this match against Betis on Saturday. Morata is in red-hot form, as we talked about in the Mallorca match, and again scoring against Celta Vigo. Koke and Tomas also playing very well in midfield and controlling the center of the park exceptionally well, both on the offensive and the defensive side. as you can expect from Simeone's team. I don't expect Betis to cause them too many issues, especially with the recent results they have had. And also, importantly, João Felix could likely be out again with a minor ankle injury. I don't think that will play a massive role, though, for Atletico's firepower up top. I think they have the goods. I think they have what it takes to take care of business. Scott, Real Madrid faces Deportivo Alaves, and then they're away to Granada. Any potential for a slip up here?
So I think this game against Alaves should be a pretty comfortable one for Real Madrid. I'm looking for a 3-goal margin, so get away from the controversy of the 1-0s. So when you look at Deportivo's season since a restart, I think they have 1 win in these 7 matches. So it's not a side that has come back sharp. And quite frankly, looking at the schedule that they have in front of them, they better hope that the teams in the relegation zone, especially Mallorca, don't pick up 6 points, because I don't see Alaves winning any more games this season. So I think Real Madrid wins this one pretty comfortably. This match against Granada, that's a really interesting one. It's another very tough, compact defensive team. I think we are going to see probably the strongest side that Real Madrid can field. So ultimately, they win this game, and then that puts them in a position where they just have to beat Villareal to claim the title, or should at that point. So I think we're going to see Real Madrid's strongest side. It should still be a very tight, compact game. I think it'll be a nervy affair, especially with so much on the line. But we should see Real Madrid come away with 2 victories.
Are we going to see another Ramos PK?
Oh, let's hope so.
Another stare down, as you described. A
Oh,
disrespectful PK. Perhaps we will. Barcelona faces last place Espanyol in the Catalan derby on Wednesday. They are unbeaten in the Catalan derby in their last 21 matches, keeping a clean sheet in 15 of them. They've been very good at the Camp Nou, and we should expect confidence to be sky high after the performance against Villareal. I expect Griezmann to start, as DJ was saying. I think Ansu Fati will make a big impact off the bench. Do expect the 2 strikers and Messi behind. But we shall see. Espanyol does not seem to, cause or think about causing a threat from Barcelona's perspective. But you never know. History will tell us otherwise. They really have nothing to lose here, and the pressure is all on Barcelona. It's all on Madrid, I would say. Barcelona doesn't have any more pressure now because La Liga is pretty much done and dusted. As a Barcelona fan, hate to say it. But then they face Real Valladolid this Saturday, which at the end of the day should be, again, nothing less than 3 points. And finally, we have Villareal taking on Real Sociedad. Scott, this is a really important matchup on Monday, especially for Europa League.
Yeah, so the Europa League implications are very strong with this game. This one should be a fun one to watch. Both Villareal came out after the restart looking very strong. Real Sociedad has really tanked, but both sides have the potential to really play some attractive football. So it'll be interesting to see, which side takes the initiative, who's able to establish control of the match. I would like to see Real Sociedad put in a strong performance and just make this a game. So it's such a young, talented side. This one really does have the potential to be an exciting matchup. Just got to see if they can get back on track. The wheels have really fallen off at Sociedad.
Important matches coming up. So let's turn over to Chris for some strength of schedule and what we're all looking forward to with only a few matches left.
So I think the key takeaway on this is the folks that have done so well since the restart has been Real Madrid. They've been literally flawless, right? And Atletico Madrid has been, they've experienced no losses, 2 ties, the rest wins. The The folks that have really stumbled have been Real Sociedad, which you mentioned just a moment ago, Scott, as well as Valencia and Getafe, right? And it seems like these potential Europa-eligible teams are doing their best to kind of give up their positions, but no one's really making a strong play towards that. So if you really look at the remaining fixtures, which is only 4, I am inclined to agree, and I hope someone disagrees with me, but Barca's got a pretty easy schedule, and Real Madrid's got a little bit of work over the next couple of games, really the second and third match. While as yet, folks that have it really hard are Villareal and Real Sociedad. Does anybody want to help me unpack what the table says here?
So from Real Madrid's perspective, I think the most difficult game is Granada. If Villarreal wants to come out and press them like they did Barcelona, I'm not too concerned about that matchup. Real Madrid should take advantage of all that space. But looking further down the table, the draw that really interests me is Athletic Bilbao against Sevilla. If Bilbao gets 3 points here, watch out for them for one of those Europa League spots. I think Villarreal will have a tough time accumulating points the rest of the way. Watch out for Bilbao to sneak by and take that spot from them.
I think Bilbao takes that spot 100%, Scott. That's a great point. I do not see Sociedad with that strength of schedule, especially those last 3 games coming up with all those points. And again, that Sociedad before the break, as you guys have mentioned, was so good, and it seems that confidence has just dropped. I don't know what they were doing, but Bilbao is on the way up. Sociedad's on the way down. I think Villarreal will hold on to that spot over Getafe, but I can see Bilbao coming up and making their own case.
I think it should be interesting to see. You guys should expect to see something from Sevilla. I think watching their previous games, they played really well. But as you see, they've tied Barca, and stuff like that. They tied the top teams, but they've also given up some points too. But I also think with their remaining schedule, they will definitely push. I could see them getting all the points they have left, especially if they get a win against Athletic Club. So look out for them.
All right. Well, I guess just to spend a moment and chat about, I think fairly quickly about the relegation. I don't even know if it's a battle, right? Alaves has got 35 points, Mallorca 29, Leganes 28, and Espanyol 24. I don't see Mallorca picking up 6 points in 4 matches, right? I mean, that means that Alaves would literally just have to almost lose everything or go at least 1-3. So I don't know if there's a whole lot to talk about there. I am sad to see Mallorca, the Norwich of La Liga, go away. But you just cheer for those guys as much as you can, and you enjoy the ride for what it is.
I think relegation is pretty much done and dusted, Chris, as you said. So, guys, I've added in some trivia for all 3 of you. Today we're going to add in some trivia. Let's start off with the first question. Are you ready? Who are the 3 clubs to never be relegated from La Liga?
Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Athletic Club.
Bingo. Well done, Scott.
Thanks, Scott. I had the first 2, but I didn't know.
DJ had the first 2. Who would you have guessed on the third one?
I was probably going to say Villarreal.
Okay. All right. Question 2. Which team has the record for most consecutive games without conceding a goal? And you get a bonus point for which year. That's a tough one. Team not so tough. Year pretty tough.
Boy, that's a good one. You know what?
Let's start with the team.
Let's go to Barca. Teams
Okay,
from
Scott says Barca. Any other takers?
Barca.
Barca. Chris?
I think I'm going to have to go with Barca too.
Barca?
Yeah.
All three across the board?
Mhm.
Okay, well, it's not Barca. It's another team. Most consecutive games without conceding. Let's think about that.
Oh, Atletico.
Yes. Atletico, 13 December 1990 to March 1991.
Wow.
Never would have guessed that.
That's
All right.
crazy.
This one's going to be a little bit easier. A little bit easier. Who has the most red cards for a single club?
The boy Sergio Ramos.
It's the boy Sergio Ramos.
La Liga
24
champion.
red cards, all with Real Madrid. But you know what? It doesn't matter at the end of the day. He's scoring goals. He is the top scorer in La Liga since quarantine. So he won't care. All right. Second to last question. Which team has the most draws overall in La Liga?
That's in-
It's a tough one. Let's go Granada.
Granada. Okay. DJ.
Dude, I have no idea.
Any takers, Chris?
Villareal.
Villareal.
I'm gonna say Sevilla.
These are good guesses, but the winner is Bilbao with 646 ties. All right. Finally, which player has the most career league appearances at one club?
Oh, what's his name?
Is that Raul?
Yes, it is Raul. DJ, were you going to say Raul?
Yeah, I was thinking about Raul.
It is the legendary Raul. Congratulations, guys. It was pretty good. Well done. These are not easy questions, except for, obviously, Sergio Ramos. That was way too easy. Cannot add that in again. We'll switch it up next time, but that wraps us up, guys. Thanks once again for tuning in to another episode of the Total Football Analysis La Liga podcast. A big thank you to Chris, DJ, and Scott for your awesome insights today. We would like to also thank Total Football Analysis Solutions. Go check out www.totalfootballanalysis.com. They are the world's largest open source soccer analyst community. See you next week, and hasta luego.